Hey friends, Pastor Michael from Organic Church, here with Sydney Erickson, Don Reed, Beth Jarvis, Nick Offelter, Pastor Roger Deerdorf. Tonight, Roger is set to explode over our question. He was all excited before we started. He's ready to pick a fight.
Yeah.
He's
Okay.
primed.
He is primed.
Yeah.
He's primed.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the question. I'm going to read it specifically. It says, do you think it is possible to believe in evolution and the Bible? Why or why not?
Okay. What I was thinking today was...
Well, first, the fact that Roger was thinking is a miracle.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it took me all day to get started. Do you think... Okay, we have proof of... they call them cavemen, okay?
So easy a caveman could do it.
Yeah, he's very upset.
He is. He's upset
yeah.
because they made a punchline out of
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
20 years later.
Yeah.
But do you think that when Adam and Eve fell out of grace with God, that they are the Neanderthal people that started? When they
Like the
fell out of
first
God's
cavemen.
grace. What do you think?
So you're saying, they were a beautiful creation
They-
beforehand,
Right.
and once they had to leave the garden, then
Yeah, things were...
Can we
things-
go
pause
back
for
to
just
what
a
they-
second? Hold on to that thought. I'm struggling over here because our recording is not happening the way that it's supposed to be.
Oh,
So we're going to take a technical break. Okay, we're not going to stop recording. Oh, you guys can keep talking, but if your headphones start to get louder, wave at me because I'm over here just turning knobs. I don't know whose is whose. So if your headphones go up really loud, just wave at me and I'll adjust it back. But I'm trying to figure out the one that runs to the computer. So here we go.
Here we go.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But yeah, I got thinking about, they were beautiful. And then when they fell out of God's grace, were they the original Neanderthal people? I mean,
Are you saying
we-
Adam and
we-
Eve would have been the original Neanderthal people?
Yes.
Oh, that's a good question.
Good point.
That's a good question.
Well, I mean,
Because we don't know what they look like.
Right.
Yeah.
Made in the image of God, but we don't know for sure what they look like.
well, as they say, you cannot have faith without a little bit of mystery.
Right. Well,
So-
and I just thought about that today, because they, like you say, and they didn't know what they looked like until they fell.
Yeah, we don't get any descriptions of what Adam and Eve
No.
look like. We have no
Well,
idea.
They didn't take pictures and put them in the Bible.
yeah.
Yeah. They weren't thinking about that.
They didn't etch a photo on the cave wall.
Well, maybe.
Well,
but
because they had a beautiful garden. They got thrown out of the garden because they
So, but they weren't in caves though, so maybe they weren't the
How do you-
original
how do you-
cavemen.
so they had to go someplace to
Yeah.
live.
But I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It definitely is an interesting
You
thought.
know, I mean,
I get you.
it's mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not really evolution. It was God created, but when
Well, you also have to think about the fact they look like that in many ways because of the nature where they're living. Obviously, their diet. If we didn't have the diet that we have today,
Yeah.
I just learned this recently about Civil War soldiers. A lot of them, they didn't want to fight at night because they couldn't see very well at night. And the reason being is because they didn't have enough vegetables and stuff like that in their diet. So they had pretty much what you would call night blindness.
Huh.
To where at dark, it's hard for us to see.
Yeah.
But for them, it was really it was almost like black. Like they couldn't see at all because they didn't have those nutrients in their body. So if you go all the way back to the Neanderthal and you think what was in their diet,
Right.
obviously their bodies are not going to look
Yeah.
the way we do.
No. And I think even evolution as a whole, it just kind of depends how you look at it. Because the definition of evolution is just change over time. So like you said, from Civil War to now, we've changed throughout that time. So
Yeah, absolutely.
No, we haven't.
Well,
I still
some
can't. I
ways,
still
yeah.
can't see at night.
Yeah.
I think you used to at one point.
Yeah, well, yeah. At one point, I did.
But we take all that for granted. We take our
Oh, yeah.
diet for granted.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
So if you think about the Neanderthals and where they're at for their time,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean they're playing on a whole different playing field than we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not gonna. There's no way they're gonna resemble us. And if you even look back to, I would probably even say Roman times, is that we don't look the way they look.
Sure.
Yep.
You could definitely see the differences.
So the question is it possible to believe in evolution and the Bible at the same time?
I think if you look at it correctly, yes.
So
I think it depends on how you look at it.
if you can accept evolution, that doesn't necessarily mean that you believe
But we came from monkeys.
that we came from monkeys, right?
Right.
It means that you
Or
believe
the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, it means
yeah.
that you believe that species change and evolve over
Over
time.
time, yes.
Doesn't necessarily mean that I don't know that there's any proof that we were ever monkeys.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that it's an assumption or a theory, but there's no physical
Yeah.
proof of that.
I read this. It's okay to, like, if you are a Christian, change over time,
Mhm.
like you said, change in a kind, like we were saying, like
Yes.
our
Mhm.
vision, and then change across kinds, like even like the monkeys, how they evolved, like you can sometimes tell. But the blind, purposeless process, like the Big Bang Theory, like
Yeah.
that's just simply like how do you believe?
Well,
it?
and how do you believe that and not believe in God?
Right.
Because so okay, you think that I'm crazy because I believe in God and believe that He created everything,
Yeah.
but you believe that just something happened.
Well, and if you're
And
already
there's
questioning,
absolutely no order
yes.
to things.
Correct.
Yeah, and if
Yeah.
you're already questioning the first chapter of the first book of the Bible, how are you going to believe the rest of the Bible? Like,
Yes.
or the ones who wrote it, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Well, I did a
Oh.
crash course on Darwin.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to have a lot more time to look it up, but I didn't. But I think his whole theory evolved because he did all these explorations in South America, and
Mhm.
so he was studying the bottom of the sea. He was studying all these invertebrates, and so as he was studying those, he came to the conclusion that every organism either came right up from the ground or from the bottom of the sea, and slowly over time, it's those organisms that changed and evolved.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much the what do they say, the strongest of the fittest,
Mhm.
like the strongest species survived,
Yes.
and so whatever we came from, it was basically because we were the strongest.
Yeah.
So we survived. We eliminated a lot of other species, and that's how we've been able to become human
Mm-hmm.
and do what we do, is because we were the strongest organism
Right.
that was able to evolve. So he and that was all just from all of these studies that he did of studying these small invertebrates at the bottom of the sea, like
Yeah.
I said, and in the ground. He came to this ultimate conclusion that I think he even called it like the tree of life. He looked at
Yes.
life like a tree.
Yes, he did. Mhm.
So everything grew from that, and it's just by, I want to say circumstance, but just by the strength of our species
Mm-hmm.
growing over time that we were allowed to
Yeah.
rule the way that we do.
I had thought of something about that too. Like, so if you look at Noah's Ark, everyone's always like, how did they fit, two animals plus
Well,
the
it
pair?
was, but it wasn't two of all animals.
That's what I'm saying.
There were many, many more of the animals that they would eat. So
That's
it was
true.
a
That's
lot
very
of
true.
animals.
That
A
is
lot of
very true.
animals.
So that, but it's like, if you think about that, like once they did get off of the ark, maybe those animals eventually evolved over time. Like, I
Well,
don't know, the one fish became
Can we
a different, you know what I mean?
think for a second, just like you've got gorillas, you've got monkeys, and there are hundreds, probably thousands, I don't know, I'm not a zoologist, I don't know, of different species of monkeys.
Even like dogs.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me one time, we're going to get off topic for just a frog hair, said to me one time, well, golden doodles aren't purebred. Well, what dog is?
Right.
Like, because
yeah, seriously.
did Noah take two Yorkies?
Yeah.
Did Noah take
two
two
pure
huskies?
labs.
Like,
yeah.
come on, get
Yeah.
out of here. At some point, there were probably, just like there are different. So if you were to go to California, the people in California are much different than the people in
No.
Ohio, right? Like from just even from county to county in Ohio, people are different. So I try to like comprehend there would have probably been different types of dogs, or they would have looked differently, and they would have been adapted for the climates that they lived in or the places that they live. And somehow we got species of dogs.
Exactly.
How many wild dogs do you see? This is a serious question because there's not many, right? Like you talk about wild dogs, you talk about.
You see them at the zoo anymore.
You talk about like hyenas, you talk about wolves, you talk about coyotes, dingoes, things like that. Okay. Do you know a single person that has a dingo, coyote, or a wolf in their house? Okay, Roger, I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised by that. But my point is that we don't tame wild animals, right? So you can't say that we do. Well, we do try at least. But my point is that you don't see people with huskies in their house or wild wolves and things like that, wild animals in their house.
It's not normal.
Right. People do it. It's not normal.
Right. Yes.
I'm not normal.
My point is that when we do that, where we think that wouldn't there be Yorkies and Terriers and all of those dogs out in the wild somewhere? Because certainly we have not managed to capture every one of them and make them a domesticated species.
Right. Yes.
It's not.
Yeah. No.
That would be really, really hard to do. Unless we captured a handful of them and then killed the rest of them. I don't know, because it seems like we're really good at that. Yeah, we can kill animals. Dodo bird.
Yeah.
Where are the dodo birds? They're all dead because we've killed them. Hamsters.
Sorry, Margie.
Yeah, let's be very careful.
Yeah, don't talk.
I got to go home tonight.
Hey, she won't be listening right away. Don't worry.
Right away.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
You let me know when you're safe in bed, and then I'll post it.
Like 8:30. I'm in trouble.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. So my thought is that I believe that species change. I think that, again, like you talked about eyesight, all of those things, we adapt and we overcome and we improvise and we learn new skills and things like that. But I just can't wrap my head around how you could believe in a Big Bang or, that we came from a little cell in the sea that evolved into something with legs that evolved into a monkey that evolved into us.
SpongeBob.
Well, another argument for Darwin was that there was no divinity of species. Like we weren't divine.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the argument, is that no, we are divine. So for humans, we didn't evolve from this small little organism that took millions of years and we ended up how we are. No, I think we were a divine species. We were meant to rule, which that says so in the Bible.
That's what Genesis tells us.
So we're supposed to rule over everything else. So when you're talking about animal species, insect species, all these things, bird species, they have a lot more, I think evolution when it comes to those species, I tend to be like, they mate with all different kinds of species. Yeah. They live in all different kinds of climates. Things like that. So I see that as very possible that, over time, this species mated with that species, created a new one, But at the end of the day, they're all still on that level of either being an insect, a bird, a mammal,
They're not an apex
they're
predator.
not, as I said, a tiger will always be a tiger, in my opinion. A tiger will never evolve into a man. There will never be real Thundercats.
Man, that's disappointing.
Disappointing,
That is
disappointing.
That is disappointing. You didn't
I
have
hate to
do
tell you
that.
that, but
That is disappointing.
Bursted your bubble.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. So, think about the different types of tigers that there are, and I could not name them all if I wanted to, but there are different I don't want to say breeds,
classes,
but there are different classes of tigers. I don't know. Again, not a zoologist here.
Yeah.
Yes, tigers. Yeah. So there are a handful of different kinds. There's like an Asian tiger, a Sumatran tiger. There are different types. They look slightly different. Their fur is different because of the climates and the places that they're found.
Yes.
So do you believe that, like, my answer is yes, by the way. Do you believe that people, depending on where they live, like their bodies are different?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Okay. Can I ask a really hard one? Never mind. I'm not going to ask it. I don't know how to ask it appropriately, so I'm going to think about it before I ask it.
The thing, when you're saying that, it's like, say, I'm sure that, like people that you have like the Eskimos that live in the
Right.
Antarctic.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
If they came to California or even to Ohio, they would have, I think, a hard time adapting to our climate, but they would. I think they would
Agreed.
do that.
They would, yeah.
And of course, if we went to Antarctica, we would have a really hard time adapting to that. But I think with enough effort, we would.
They say that, like, even going to Florida, if you go to Florida for an extended period of time, your blood thins out, and you like that allows you to stay cooler. And then when you come back to a more frigid,
like a snowbird.
yes, right, exactly. Then your blood thickens up and keeps. I don't know if that's true or not.
But if you take a saltwater fish and throw it in fresh water,
dead,
it is not going to adapt.
No.
However, there are some sharks that can swim in both. I just saw that.
The Mississippi River.
So they can transition from saltwater to freshwater.
Yeah.
Never seen that before.
I don't think they go like deep into
No.
the Mississippi River because they wouldn't be able to survive that.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm sure there's a lot of smart people that could argue everything I say when it comes to this kind of thing. But overall, in the big picture of things, even like you take an alligator out of the Everglades and you put him
in your backyard.
In your backyard, he'll thrive for a little bit. He'll probably kill a lot of stuff, but eventually he won't survive because he just doesn't have the climate and the environment to thrive the way they're built to do.
Yeah. I also believe that about animals that we put in the zoo. I think like release rates would be. So I believe there are places that like specialize in releasing animals that they have rehabilitated and released.
Right.
But for the most part, if you were to take a Bengal tiger that you found in the zoo, that has been in the zoo, so it was born in the zoo, and you dropped it back in its environment, it would die.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so used to having been fed that it doesn't know how to hunt.
That's what I was going to say. Like if you were to rescue like a raccoon, like I want to domesticate a raccoon so bad. I'm like, I want one so bad.
We had one when I was a kid.
My grandma did too.
Yeah.
But same thing, if that's what you were to do, and then you're like, well, I don't want this thing anymore, and you let it into the wild, I mean,
He's probably not going to survive.
Number one, he's overweight, probably.
Yeah. And he's got diabetes at this point.
And you can do it, you can do it, but it takes a lot more effort to do that than it does to get a dog or a cat.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A domesticated animal. Like you really have to work hard.
Well, yeah.
Because a domesticated animal is bred into being domesticated.
Yes.
So like I'm not going out and finding a dog on the side of the road that is out of a wild pack of dogs and bringing it in and trying to domesticate it. Like that's
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's been eating wild meat its whole life, you can't bring it in and bring it Purina puppy chow. It's not going to work.
And again, the food may keep it alive, but it's probably not going to.
It's not going to thrive.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, like if we would have to go to Alaska or, the Eskimos would come here, like I think you're kind of like your survival mode like kicks in. Like, okay, I have to adapt. I have to change to survive like up here. Like if we were to move to Alaska or something.
And that's the thing. As a people, we can freely move from one place to another. We can do all those things where animals can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's animals that migrate. Don't get me wrong. We can talk about migration. But again, they're built to do that upon season, as I truly believe, that's part of God's law. They're meant to do those things for a purpose. And they do it. And that's the amazing thing. There's species that migrate, and they do it every year, right on time, same time of the year, never misses a beat. I mean, I just learned that we're going to have a double dose of those cicadas this summer.
A double dose?
A double dose. Like for the first time since 1803.
Oh my god!
That will have both.
I hate
happening at the
I
same
hate one,
time.
let
So
alone
can you imagine?
two.
When Chase and I met, what is it? Every 7 or 8 years?
7.
7. So it would have been 7 years ago. They were terrible.
But
like, let alone
one of them is every 7, and one of them is every
21.
Yeah. And so this just is a perfect storm.
So.
Where they line
okay.
up.
Okay. So let's go Old Testament for just a second because that is a plague.
Yeah,
like
I
that is
thought about
straight
it.
up plague.
Yes.
Like God is doing something because he's about to get plagued with locusts.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Thomas Jefferson was president the last time
Oh my gosh.
that happened.
Speaking of Thomas Jefferson, no point to anything we're talking about, but I have fun trivia about Thomas Jefferson. Did you know that he is the person who introduced macaroni and cheese to the United States?
Sure.
I thought it was
Did it come
Kraft.
from France?
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause
He loved Europe, and
Yeah.
he brought macaroni and cheese to the United States.
I learned a presidential trivia question.
I love Thomas Jefferson now. He's my favorite president now.
Oh yeah, he's
Legit. I mean, he brought us mac and
I
cheese.
mean,
like
if you've ever been to Monticello, just underneath his house, just it's a whole industry he's got underneath that.
all I want's the mac and cheese, man.
Just blow your mind.
Liquid gold.
It's like he's like Bruce. To me, he was like, "Wow, this dude's Bruce Wayne." He's got this whole thing happening underneath.
He's got a
his,
bat cave.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable.
Did you know Garfield when he was not assassinated?
The cat?
No. President Garfield.
Oh, okay.
Not assassinated. Or no, it would have been attempted assassination. But actually, would it have been assassinated because
He did die.
he died like 80 some days later.
However, he did not die from
The gunshot
the
wound?
gunshot wound.
What
He
did he die
died from how the surgeons treated him.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what that's what I was getting at. They
So
They kept-
who invented the metal detector?
Alexander Graham Bell.
Yes, and the reason he invented it, or right around the same time, was because Garfield he was trying to get that out, and then the
Yeah.
metals and stuff.
Like,
were
they just
messing
couldn't
with
find
it.
the metal?
It was his
Yeah.
forerunner of the X-ray, and they were trying to find the bullet
Oh.
Yeah.
because they had people keep telling him you cannot keep probing that wound because there's germs. And back then, still at that time, they did not believe in germs.
Huh.
Even after everything the Civil War taught them, there were still
Really?
these people that did not believe in germs, so they just kept probing the wound with a dirty probe, all this stuff. And yeah, he died from infection.
Interesting.
His
Yeah.
casket is also the only open, like not actually open, but the only presidential casket that you can go visit.
Interesting.
Mhm.
I did know
In
that.
Cleveland.
Yeah, I did know that.
Fairview.
Yeah, I did know
Cemetery.
that. Like,
Okay,
it
I'm
actually
done.
just like sits there.
Yeah.
Wait, I got presidential trivia. Wow, now that ruins it.
Oh man.
Well, okay, maybe not.
Just
totally.
tell
Not
us.
totally. Charles Darwin.
Mm.
He was born the same day, same year as what president?
I don't know when he was born, so I have no idea.
February 12th, 1809.
Lincoln. No.
Lincoln. Yep.
Okay, that was just a good guess. That was just a good guess.
Oh, no, she knew because
That's what I was going to say. It was a good guess because of who was asking the question. That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna
There
say.
we go.
Yeah, it's just a good guess.
Can we circle back to your question that you said that you didn't want to ask?
No, not yet. Not yet. Well, because, all right. So I'm going to ask this in the most sensitive way possible. Please, I'm not trying to offend or be offensive.
Yeah.
But so historically, African American people were found in Africa.
Okay.
Their skin is dark because it is hot and there is a lot of sun there.
Yes.
Do we believe that that's why that, I don't know. I'm asking a question. Like, did their bodies evolve into having dark skin as to protect them from whatever?
I've always wondered that.
I don't know.
Well,
I read that.
it's
to be
interesting
true,
You did?
but- I
because
did. Mm-hmm.
the Egyptians were definitely had a darker skin.
Right.
But they were not black. But the Persians, I think, hope I'm getting this right. There was a couple other civilizations that were close to them, but they, according to the way the Egyptians drew them up, were really like black,
Had darker skin.
really dark
Yeah.
skin.
That's
But they're all relatively close in that area of Africa,
Mm-hmm.
and yet there's all these different.
that's
So
what
I don't know.
That's what I was wondering.
That's a good question.
If there's like some based on where they would have been, but then you think about like
Native Americans.
Well, I look at-
or Italians.
I look at my wife's family.
Mhm.
Her oldest brother is incredibly dark.
Mm-hmm.
She is not,
Yeah.
and her brother is not.
Yeah. But they come from the same mom
So-
and dad.
The two boys have the same dad, but very different skin tone.
Yeah.
So that's not, to me, it's not necessarily evolution, but it.
Like luck of the draw.
Like, how
in
do you
that
how do you
case.
figure that out? Like that's the
Yeah.
part that I don't I can't fully wrap my
Well,
head around.
you know, racism just totally blows my mind
Mhm.
because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, we have all mixed in
Well,
together.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's really
And
crazy?
it just
I just learned this. Didn't know this was a thing. But like my wife in darker, like if it, in black circles, like if she had a large gathering of black, because she is so light skinned, would not have like she's not as black as they are, or however they would
I've
say it.
heard that.
I'm like, that's crazy to
Yeah.
me. Like you
like
can't be
they'd
white,
almost
but you
look,
can't be black.
Yeah, they'd almost
Right.
look down on her.
Yes, right. I just
Yeah.
think that that's
Yeah.
kind of strange. I don't know.
did you know Cleopatra was not Egyptian?
Really? What was
She
she?
was Greek.
Really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Had
Yep.
no idea. Fascinating.
I didn't know that either till about 2 months ago.
Okay, can we talk about dinosaurs?
All right.
Did everybody know I was going to go there? Like, did everybody?
It had to come up eventually.
Well, yeah. Okay, so we talk about evolution. Now, here's my big question. This is just we're just going to get out there with the biggest one. Do we think that the dinosaurs that we see in museums were ever actually real things? Because we have no proof of it. They just take bones and put them together and say, this is what a T-Rex would have looked like. And we believe them blindly. Because I've never had a pet T-Rex. I never ran from one in the wild.
You need to go to Jurassic Park.
Because I have a hard time wrapping my head around a T-Rex with these tiny little front arms and these great big meaty back legs that like it could run and just rip. Like, how did it open birthday presents?
Well, and a lot of the times they're like, did they have feathers because they were
right?
a bird?
Yes. Now, and they're even saying that like all of them, rather than reptilian skin, could have been feathered.
Right.
Like we've always pictured them as reptilian
I
skin.
would go with you on this, but explain to me when you find a T-Rex, the skull.
Oh, I'm
That's
not saying
pretty-
that there weren't big creatures out
No.
there, but how do we know that that's how it would have been shaped? How do we know it didn't have tiny back legs and big front legs?
Yeah.
Couldn't
Well,
run very fast.
It would be top heavy, just fall over.
haven't we found like a full-on dinosaur like skeleton like almost all together? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. Have we?
So then we
Yeah,
would
I
know
think they
like,
have.
okay, these two, hands are smaller than the back ones.
So like laying out, it was like
Right,
in the.
right.
Okay, that's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah, I think they have.
yeah,
That's a good point. So,
I think.
but how do we know what they looked like? And then, how do we feel about extinction as far as a whole entire species go?
Mhm.
Like dinosaurs, for lack of a better term, are all extinct with the exception of the megalodon, which lives somewhere in the depths of the ocean we haven't
Mhm.
seen yet.
They say
Giant sharks.
That's the megalodon.
mammoths, but they say they're going to bring the mammoths back.
Why
this
would they
year.
do that?
I don't know. Somehow with elephants
Listen,
and DNA.
okay, but listen to me. If we bring back a mammoth, a woolly mammoth, if we decide that's a good idea, some idiot somewhere is going to
Maybe.
open Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I'm
you didn't
telling you,
watch the
it's
5
going
or
to
6
happen.
movies telling us not to do
Yes, right. Like we have. Listen, if there's a funeral director listening right now, I beg of you, put shoes on everybody and tie their shoes together. Because if zombies end up being a real thing, then they can't run. Like they can't walk. They just trip over themselves. I'm saying that like if we've learned anything from Hollywood, let's take some precautions, right? Let's not try to open Jurassic Park.
Well,
Let's not. Because then the dinosaurs get smarter than us,
Well, and
right?
I think
Yeah.
the same thing about the AI thing. It's like, didn't we all watch Terminator?
Did you see they're going to have an AI Elvis?
Well, I haven't seen that yet. but
He's going to be in concert in England, like a whole show.
Well, what I hate about this now is you'll see these pictures. Like I saw one of Michael Jackson the other day.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, I've never seen that picture of
It's
him
not real.
before. Well, it wasn't him.
Yeah.
It was an AI picture,
Yep.
but I mean, it fooled me.
Yeah.
So
There's a-
I don't like that.
If you
I
get
just
in-
don't.
If you get into Chat GPT and you say, create a picture of Michael Jackson on a spaceship, it will create you a picture of.
It's not bogus.
No, it looks as legitimate as they can.
Yeah.
I'm going to make one real quick while we're sitting here. So, okay. So my question was about dinosaurs.
And
How
this is usually the question where,
Mhm.
I don't want to say atheist. I don't want to use that word. Maybe that's not how they classify themselves. But
Non-believers.
non-believers
Yeah.
and evolutionary people, that's usually one of their big. If you're a non-Christian, that's one of your big arguments. I used to
Right.
argue. We had a kid I used to work with long time ago, and that was always his argument. He'd just bring up the dinosaurs, and that was end of conversation.
Well, what was his point?
Just that. Well, if there was dinosaurs, dinosaurs aren't in the Bible, so how can
We don't
the Bible
know
be
that.
true?
What about the great beast?
Yeah, I was going to say we don't know that. And I said this to some matter of fact, I think it was you, Beth, you and I talking about it, maybe at worship practice, about translations of the Bible not being entirely accurate. There were words in the Greek that we didn't know how to translate, and so we translated them into other things. And then, as we've learned
Yeah.
more, they have changed. So
Well, not only that, but Genesis, I was reading, is very, like they say, it's very poetic. So they could have been writing Genesis as if, almost like, don't take it literally, but in the same.
Well, in some ways, it's shorthand.
Right,
They're not
right.
explaining every
Exactly.
detail.
Yes.
They
yes.
at no
Yeah.
point did they list every animal that got on the ark. At no
Right.
point did they ever list
Yeah.
like they list
But
the
just
lineage.
go ahead and tell somebody they put a T-Rex on the ark,
Yeah.
and then
That had to be a big ark.
yeah,
I mean, based on the size of a T-Rex. Like he'd have had to have like a spot for his head to stick out, kind of like the
Maybe
giraffes.
maybe just a baby.
Maybe they
Yes.
took dinosaur eggs.
Eggs.
Yeah,
there we
you
go.
But again, think about it. I mean, it used to be a common belief that the earth was flat.
Yes, and everybody
It
believed
still
it.
is a common belief.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Well, it
If
is.
you're
That's-
listening, Shaquille.
My brother-in-law is, oh man, the one is a science teacher and the other one is a flat earther, and it oh my.
Now,
God.
here's the thing. I think that those are great conversations.
Yeah,
Those are great
yeah.
topics for debate because, and they send pictures of like from the space station, the International Space Station, where you can see the curvature of the Earth. This might get me strung up in the town square, but I can't wrap my head around how we ever landed on the moon.
I know.
Like, so I'm not saying I don't believe we did it, but I'm like, I want to see some proof. Like, I don't fully believe that. But so I need the same thing for the flat Earth, like whether the Earth is round or flat.
Like, I
wanna-
need to go up there myself
yeah,
and see.
because I mean, nobody's ever sailed off the edge of the Earth, so it certainly can't be flat. It doesn't make sense. But imagine back then, that's what people believed.
That's because all the maps were flat.
Yeah, right. So you just have to assume. But this is also a fun fact that everybody thinks that Alaska is a very small state because if you look at it on a map, Alaska looks very small.
Right.
It's
It is
actually
massive.
humongous. It's actually very humongous.
Yes.
But because it's just, and it's not.
Because of how they put it on the map.
Right. And they
Yeah.
do that just out of space. That's
Yes,
where on a,
yes.
and then it became normal. That's where we put it. So
Fun fact, apparently there's question that Alaska is or not a state as of this week.
how?
I don't know.
What?
I did not read up on it. It was on the radio when I was pulling in.
Is it a Russian territory?
I don't know. I think
Well, it
there was
was.
like
No, that's
I-
the,
that was-
that's
Yeah.
the Aleutians.
I didn't read into it, but it was like I was coming home and I was parking and heard something like coming up we'll talk about like how Alaska could or could not be a state still. I'm like, what?
We purchased it. It's
Yeah.
been documented.
Yeah. I don't know if they didn't put something in the document or did, and you know what I mean?
The
But
document is. Yeah.
that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
We'll see. Dinosaurs.
Keep going. I'm over here generating AI photos.
Beth? The Beast?
She's got her notes out. She's flipped her Bible open. She's ready to argue.
No. I had to. 1-800-JARVI.
Phone a friend. Phone
Yeah.
a friend.
But he talks about in the Bible where he always talks about worlds.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, where's that verse? And it's Hebrews
Get closer to your
1.
microphone.
Hebrews 1, verse 2. It says, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds.
Worlds
Plural.
with an
Worlds.
S. Also talks about aliens then, right?
Yeah.
Jesus was an Oh, I found out today.
Oh, don't say Jesus is an alien
No,
because
it was-
Jarvis like, well, he is because he's not of this world.
And I was going to say, that's the argument, yeah. So I found out today, and not all people believe this, so I want to be very clear that like it's a small group of people. But in Amish culture, they believe that if Jesus were to be standing here today, that he would be Amish. Now, you picture Jesus in a flat-brimmed hat with a full white beard and his bib overalls and his button-up short-sleeve shirt, but they believe that. So, like, the purpose of the conversation was because I'm not Amish, if I were to go to one of their events, I would be seated separately. I would not be seated with the Amish, like I wouldn't be at an Amish table because I'm English. And so the question was, well, if Jesus comes back, where do you seat him? And they said, well, he would be seated with the Amish because Jesus is Amish. And I'm like, that's bizarre. And it's not that like that's their belief, but the reason I say it's bizarre is because we don't think like that, right?
No.
Like, and my wife has I also know and am fully aware that Jesus is also not white. Jesus is going to be Middle Eastern. Jesus is going to be darker complected. He is not going to have straight and flowy hair. He's not going to look like Fabio. Like everybody thinks that
You're going to have an afro?
Yeah, maybe.
I
I
can't
don't
believe
know.
it's not butter.
I can't believe it's not butter. But people like to think that Jesus is going to look like us.
Right.
Jesus is likely, he doesn't look nothing like us. But people have a hard time comprehending that. Yeah. My wife loves nothing more than to get like Black Jesus photos and Black Jesus ornaments for our Christmas tree. Like, she loves it because it makes people uncomfortable. One of the things that we did a few years ago, no, we didn't. We ended up buying a different one, but she wanted a Black Santa for our house. Like, 'cause she was like, we don't know. Right. You ever seen him?
Yeah.
I don't know what he looks
There
like.
you go.
It's not fair. So anyhow, there you go.
So, do you think if God created other worlds, that's where your dinosaurs were?
Maybe. But then how did they get here?
I don't know. Migrated.
On spaceships.
Well, think about it. At one time, you could walk across from.
Right. The continents were together.
Yes.
Yeah, you could walk across the what they call it, the ice bridge, or forget
Yeah.
what they call
It
it,
was
but
To the
Yeah.
Aleutians, from that's how a
called
lot of the
something.
yeah,
animals
and of
got.
course the Native Americans, they did the same thing, so that's how they were able to migrate and come into this country. So yeah, the Earth. That's another thing. Is the Earth wasn't always the way that we see it now, which is again you could argue, okay, well that's another part of evolution,
It's just change.
but it's changed,
Right.
But that doesn't mean that God doesn't control it. And
Yeah.
I think that's the thing is people think, well, since evolution could be proven, well, that means, God doesn't have control over everything. Everything is just random. But I don't believe that. I believe
Everything is in
because to me, I saw a picture of, I think it was Jupiter the other day.
Jupiter.
And that thing, it's gas. It's just a big ball of gas. And it's one of our planets. But you think how the planets are all aligned in the stars and the whole solar system. And of course the solar system is bigger now than it was, 1,000 years ago. The way we understand it. But think about that. Think about how everything has to work just perfectly or it doesn't work at all.
Even like the Earth being tilted on its axis and the moon, and this,
And the sea only goes so far. All of those things.
How can all that just be by some random
by chance?
Bang,
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call it. How can that possibly be? And if it was random, how could it continue on so long, no matter what the circumstances are? As much as good intentions as us humans have, look what we've actually done to the Earth. Since
We messed it up.
we messed it up a lot, and we continue to. And some of it is we think is for our own benefit. We're doing what we need to do to survive. But a lot of times, we're changing the Earth. Whether you believe in, climate control and all those things, it's just a fact that what we do changes. The way the Earth develops and the way it operates. But again, it's like every morning, every year, the sun comes up the same way, the birds behave the same way. Everything continues on. In spite of ourselves, the Earth still continues to run the way it's supposed to.
It's because it's in God's hands.
Yeah. So that's always my thought is, I truly believe yes, the human race, I don't think will be wiped out by a nuclear war. I don't think that's in our hands. I think, yes, we could have a nuclear war and it can make life for us, very terrible.
Yeah.
It can make for a lot, a whole different way of survival. But I don't think we can make that call as to when, this Earth is going to be destroyed.
Agreed.
You brought up space, and then I was thinking aliens and all this other stuff. But you hear a lot where people say oh, the government, they if they were to release all of this, information, us as a society would just go crazy. What do you think about that? Because I feel like a lot of people point that towards the Bible's not real.
Well, it's kind of like Bigfoot. I don't want to offend any of the Bigfoot.
Yeah, because you
people
will.
out there, because I will, because they're serious. But I guess my thing is with Bigfoot, because some people believe that Bigfoot's an alien. I've heard that interpretation.
Yes, I have.
where they
Yeah,
think that's
yeah.
why we can't find him is because he's an alien. So
Beam me up, Scotty.
Yeah. But personally, I think if there was a Bigfoot, there's no way at this point that we wouldn't have discovered him.
So I will agree But then I would challenge that with, we are still finding species in the bottom of the sea that we have never seen. We are finding frogs.
but they're
and,
claiming that Bigfoot walks around in the Appalachian Mountains or
listen,
Salt
where-
fort.
Salt
listen.
Fork.
I almost, this is an honest to goodness
Right there
true
in
story.
Thomastown.
It's honest to goodness true story. I was coming home from work one day and I dropped off some Amish gals that I was taking home at the time. I was driving home and I see against the tree line, just over this like little riverbank, I see this great big figure walking against the wood. And I'm like, I'm running it over with my car. I'm driving through this cornfield. I'm hitting that because I am going to catch a Bigfoot. Turned out to be an Amish dude. But can you imagine? Like, I didn't hit him. To clear that up, I did not hit him. I didn't hit him to find out it was an Amish man. But the closer I got, the like you were able to tell it was an Amish man. Now, here's the argument that I'd make for Bigfoot. Why is it that every time we get a picture of it, it's blurry?
It's blurry.
Listen,
Right.
I can take a picture from here
And
to
that's the-
just about Midvale with my iPhone, and it is crystal
And we
clear.
could go to space. We can
Yeah,
get all
come
these
on.
pictures of the
Yeah.
black
Come
holes and
on.
all
Yeah.
this stuff, but we can't focus in
Listen,
on
Yeah.
Bigfoot.
Get a drone up in the sky. You show me where they nest. We'll capture
Yeah,
one. And we'll do a King Kong situation. We'll put him on display. He'll break the chains, eat somebody, whatever. But I have a hard time just believing it because I have never seen it. Now, aliens, I'd say the same thing. But you have seen enough proof that there are unidentified flying objects.
Right.
There are things happening, flying around that we don't even know about. It's
Those
kinda-
are weather balloons.
those are weather balloons. Yeah, no,
Spy balloon.
yeah, I was gonna say nobody's spying on us. It's a weather balloon, but like we have a little more proof there than we have on anything else. Now, I did see a really funny meme, and it was Bigfoot, and he was swimming, and he had a snorkel on, and he had this wooden Loch Ness monster. So it says what Bigfoot does in his spare time. And I was like, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. But superstition, though, and so like kind of bring it full circle. Superstition is a big part in not believing in the Bible as well. So when you are an incredibly superstitious person and you believe in Bigfoot, you believe in the Loch Ness monster, you believe in aliens, and you believe in all of those things, it makes it harder to wrap your head around creation.
Yeah.
It makes it harder to wrap your head around.
Well, myths and legends and all that stuff comes way before Christianity.
Yeah.
And really for the Egyptians, I mean, their religion was more based on myth. Like
Yeah.
their gods were not. They were more mythical. They were something to like learn from and to follow.
Dog
and to
heads
Get,
and-
kind of
Yeah.
get. Well, it was more symbolic to where.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were aliens.
Here we go. Here we go.
So myth and legends have always been a part of our world, and I think they've been somewhat separate from religion. But those stories have been passed around well before Christianity. And so they're always going to be a part of our world. So I don't think myths and all that kind of stuff discount any kind of religious ideals. It's just people told stories and they carried them on and they grew and they took on other forms into different cultures. So they're a part of our world.
I don't think I meant that they would discredit religion, but I think if you talk to people who believe in those things, who believe in those things passionately,
Yeah. Like they don't really need to have a creator.
correct,
Yeah.
because there's so much unexplained in this world that there's no way that, that there's a single creator with all. I think it allows people to like start walking down that path, and I think even people who are incredibly pessimistic struggle with religion for that very reason as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because everything is negative in their eyes. So if God is so good, why would he allow these things to
Right.
happen?
Yeah.
If God was all knowing, why would he allow these things to continue to be created? And they're all great questions. I think that's like when you get down to the base of it, our responsibility is to create disciples and share with them our worldviews. You explained to me how we can find some of the things and shut down some of the things on the internet, but we can't shut down child pornography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You explain that to me. We can remove. I use Trump as an example. You can ban him from every social media platform that exists, but you can't manage to shut down child pornography.
Yeah.
I think we're better than that.
Yeah.
They don't want.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying because we don't want
they know
to.
it's a market.
Right.
And,
And that's what, and we, because again, we live in the greatest country in the world, right? We believe that people have a right to see those things, but then we want to prosecute them whenever it crosses a certain line.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
but who gets to determine that line?
Well,
you know.
good question. We were talking about that in Amish culture today. And the girl said that there's one person in the Amish church who is appointed to, so let's say you break an Amish rule. Let's say you're told you have to get rid of your e-bike and you don't get rid of your e-bike. There's a person appointed in your church to handling those situations. He comes to your house and he says, hey, you got to get rid of the bike or you're going to, I don't know.
Be banished.
We'll shun you.
No, so that shunning is not
No?
like we like to believe that it is, but
Okay.
there would be a consequence of some sort. I don't know what that would be. But they wouldn't go by themselves. They would take two older people in the church with them. So not necessarily elders or deacons or anything like we would think, but just two senior members of the church would go with them. And it's always a very like soft conversation. But there's really like the bishops are the ones who decide what the rules are. So I think a lot of times churches get wrapped up in that as well. Like there are rules to serving. You can't serve if you're doing all of these things. You can't. Oh, no. But that's really not how it works.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I have a very like if you serve with me, Sid, you know this, you've seen it. If you serve here, there is a very small form. It's one page, and it just basically says, "Hey, I'm not going to do these things. I'm going to commit to you as the pastor and to our congregation that I won't do these things," which I think is fair. Because I'm asking you to be in the public eye. The problem is when it becomes legalistic and we're like, whoa, no, you have to wear a dress.
Right,
you have to, oh, no. You have to wear your hair up. All of those things. I have no idea where we started or where I ended up here. But that's a no-no. Sorry.
Well,
Was you running over the Amish man
Hey,
in the cornfield?
I didn't run him over. I realized that it was an Amish man and not a Bigfoot. Because my grandpa's an avid Bigfoot believer. I'm like, I bag a Bigfoot. He's going to owe me big time.
You're like, what did you want from him whenever they pass away?
Oh, the
eventually?
Kennedy plate.
You're like,
I'm
I
getting the
better
Kennedy
get that
plate.
Kennedy plate
Yeah,
now.
getting the Kennedy plate because I got you a Bigfoot.
No, I think we got there because we were saying, we can prosecute Trump and this and that, but child pornography is okay. But it's like, well, who makes that quote unquote?
So a lot of
line?
times the people who make the rules don't typically follow the rules.
Yeah.
They make the rules, but then they can adjust that rule to fit their need or their lifestyle or their whim, which is scary to think about.
Yeah.
Do as I say and not as I do.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And there's so many places that are like that. And again, I don't mean to pick on anybody, but if I have somebody who's coming to church for the first time that I know, they'll text me, what should I wear? Whatever you want. Come comfortable.
Yeah.
We want you to be able to enjoy your experience, not be wearing a button-up shirt where you're sitting there doing this the whole time, like you're uncomfortable. We want you to be comfortable. We want you to be able to enjoy the experience and not an experience that we create. Can I tell you, I heard the most profound thing today, and I'm writing a message on this now that I've heard it. I was talking to another Foursquare pastor. He called me today. We were chatting, and he said, here's the problem with the church as a whole, just church in general. We want to point to stories about Jesus, but we don't want to point to Jesus. I want to tell you about a Jesus that I've read about, but I don't want to tell you about a Jesus that I know.
That's right.
I can't, I don't know him well enough to tell you about my relationship with him, but I can tell you about the stories of the relationships he had with others.
Yeah.
Right? It's true. And so Jesus didn't make the rules. Jesus said that, he didn't come to abolish, but to fulfill. And now here we are making more rules. Here we are trying to slow people down.
He had it simplified for us already, and we made it difficult.
Yeah, when you talk about what it takes to be saved, it don't take nothing. You admitting that you're a sinner, you knowing that you're a sinner. It's not words that you speak. It's a thought that you have. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and I want more of Him, less of me. He is my only way to heaven. Professing that you are a sinner and accepting that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior. That's it. You don't have to do it out loud. There's no specific rhyme. You don't have to get baptized. You don't have to do any of those things. It's not
thief on the cross.
Yep. Didn't do any of those things. So, again, has nothing to do with the topic, but now we're passionate about it. Now you got me going.
Well, the other argument that I have against evolution, as Darwin argued, so the strongest survive. So it's all based on power. So my argument is, okay, if evolution stands alone on the strongest species surviving and keeping their thumbs down on others, yes, there are plenty of powerful people in the world that have tried to keep control of power, hold other people down, keep keeping control of what's going on, and they can do it for a while.
Yeah.
But it never lasts. If you think of every, strong civilization that's ever existed, whether it be, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, even, when Europe was a major power, eventually they lost it.
Yeah.
So, we always, as Americans, we always have to question that too, that if we're not careful, if we don't do the right things, we're going to lose it. But Darwin, actually, he didn't believe in slavery because he thought, well, if we all came from the same species, then we are all equal, so therefore slavery cannot be right. But of course, slavery came from one having power over another.
Correct.
And it's just not an American society. We didn't create it. But
It's not an American institution.
no, it's not an American institution. But to point to our example, if evolution as one having power over another and being the strongest as the argument, slavery in itself was never a question of something evolutionary, of one species having power over another. It's morality.
Right.
Yeah.
Is what it
Well,
became.
Yeah.
And slavery came to pass because it was a moral question, not because if it was just about power, slavery would always be.
Right.
Yeah.
Because whoever's being enslaved would never be able to rise up against that species
Right.
that has evolved.
Yeah,
to
into
have
superiority.
control over
Yeah.
superiority. You would never get away from that. So with humans, it goes beyond that to where slavery, those people are humans. They're human. So through ideals and morality is how that gets changed. It does not get changed from power.
Right. That is, I mean, that's a really profound statement.
Yeah.
And not to speak specifically against evolution, but the human as just in general, just who we are, what we do. It is not about power. It's about morality. If it were all about power, one person would remain in power forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fact remains that we are created in such a way that we look at that. We look at slavery and say that's not acceptable. We look at abuse and say that's not acceptable. Even we are at the point where we can look at somebody who's abusing animals and say that's not acceptable.
Right.
I can imagine back a long time ago, they kick a dog and not think anything about it. Your
Right.
wife would beat somebody up if she saw him kick a dog today.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because we have evolved morally and can say this is not acceptable, this is
Yeah.
not okay.
I actually just listened to a podcast. I can't remember who he was, but he was born in the 1930s. He was terrible. And he sounds like he had a head injury. I don't know, like 17 or 18. But basically, he would rape these young 12, 13-year-old girls, but then he would convince them to marry him. That way they wouldn't tell on him.
Yeah.
And he was a disaster. Well, even like the judge, he was scared. Like he was constantly threatening, like, well, if you press these charges on me, like I'm going to go rape your wife and this and that. The community ended up just like killing him like in the 1980s.
Well,
And because of the morality, they're like, we know like it's not
safe to leave him out, but everybody's afraid of it.
exactly.
So if we do it together,
yeah.
Yeah, they,
like it's
they can't
Yeah.
prosecute
And
all of us.
no one ended up being charged or anything.
well, no.
But I mean, at the end of the day, they're like, he never killed anyone, but they're like, he is eventually going to kill somebody. Like, we cannot let this happen.
Then you get into a whole morality question.
Right.
Though, was what they
Was
did
what
was
they
that
did
right?
moral.
Because
Yes.
he could have been.
Yeah.
He could have been rehabilitated, potentially have been rehabilitated.
Right,
You know,
right.
you look at Jeffrey Dahmer, who accepted Christ before he was executed. All of those things are hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
I can tell you this. I have had Jesus in my life for a long time, and I know Jesus pretty well. But if something happened to one of my kids and somebody did, I would have a hard time.
Yeah.
I would ask Jesus to hang back at the house for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I gotta go take care of something. You just stay here. But that's again for us. That's what lives inside of us. That fleshly part
Flesh,
that
yeah,
says
yes.
that I have to make right what has been done wrong. So it's hard.
Yeah. And humans are the only species that can make that decision.
Yeah.
Again, with evolution, with any other form, sure, there's.
I watched a really interesting documentary on lions. My wife hates it when I do this stuff. It's one of those National Geographics. And so this male lion had his pride. There were, 6, 8 lionesses in his pride, but he was the only male lion, and that's typically how it works. But they are challenged by other lions, and they take over their pride, okay? So this younger male lion challenges this older, more mature male lion and is trying to take his pride. And the young lion ends up killing the older lion. And those lionesses just walk away with that younger lion. Like, they didn't try to fight for the male that they had been with for so long. That's the difference between species.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Like
morally, they would have stepped. Like, if we were experiencing that, we would probably step in, right? We wouldn't just sit back and watch them get killed.
Yeah.
We would step in, but that's not how they just it's part of life. So
Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mother Nature, you're not gonna go try to capture Jenny's bees, huh?
No, I have not tried to do that.
Honeybees still sting, right?
Oh yeah.
Hard pass. Hard pass. Don't want
They
anything
sure
to do
do.
with that.
Through a suit and everything.
Yeah, don't want anything to do with that.
My aunt has captured some, but even I contemplated going to get some in Newcomers Town over the fall, and it was kind of like Jenny's too. It was like in woodwork and above, kind of where you'd need a ladder. And she's like, I've done like trees and bushes, but like nothing like that,
that'd be a big job.
Yeah, like you'd have to be very experienced, which there's people out there. That's why I told her, hey, call this guy.
Yeah.
I'll set you up because,
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Jenny has honeybees living in her house, like inside behind the siding.
Yeah.
It's like wood siding. It's living behind it.
Which free bees are the best kind of bees, but I'm like,
Like
I don't
on
know if it's
purpose?
worth.
Yeah, they've created a nest inside of her of her house, in between I would assume in between the wall and that siding.
But he is right in saying like to wait till springtime, because my hive is currently like I wrapped it in like
hibernating.
Yes, like they are not getting out as of like second week of December, because normally you're supposed to do it like first week of November, but we had a pretty warm fall up until, so I just waited it out as much as I could, and
Well,
I mean they're wrapped up.
But
now.
think about that, the whole colony, and how they operate.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
there's beekeepers that, and people do it. Like there's not a right way to beekeep because they're so.
They do what they want.
Yeah,
you can't control.
No matter
them.
what you do, they're so like there's so many different ways you don't understand them,
But isn't it at some point like the queen, like they'll decide like, well, she's not.
Yeah. Or like if the
mutiny.
Queen's weak, like
she's
they'll kill her.
There's no
and they'll
moral,
train another one. Yeah.
Loyalty to her.
Yeah, no.
They just like, it's time to go.
I was watching again another documentary, but it was on. It was a wasp that lives underground. I don't know what kind of wasp it was.
Is it carpenter bees?
No, it was a wasp. It was definitely a wasp. But anyhow, this guy got called to remove this wasp nest that was in the ground, and he had, or maybe it was hornets. Maybe it was hornets.
He had a vacuum.
That's exactly what he did. He had a shop vac, and he would hit the ground, and these things would fly out, and he'd just suck them up in the shop vac. But it got to the point where, like, he was still getting some, but not enough. So he opens this thing up. So he digs it out of the ground because he's removing it for these people, and it's like 3 layers deep. And they say they'll take it over like old gopher holes, or and then that's where they'll. That's fascinating. Think about like how they learn.
It's not fascinating when you hit one with a weed either.
No, I'm sure it's not
fascinating at all.
No.
Yeah.
Chase has
Just
done
ask
that
Margie.
one too many
Yeah.
times.
I have never, thankfully.
A couple years ago,
Yeah.
I got
Yeah, but even if you open up a
dinged
hive,
pretty good.
it's just like, how do they know what to?
Right. It's instinct for them.
baffling,
It's
yes.
instinct. But that's just like when a baby giraffe is born, it drops to the ground.
Yeah,
That baby giraffe
from
falls to the ground and then stands up. How long does it take a human baby to stand up? Do you know what I mean? Like that species, like they know what to do. Same with horses. Horses, they just they start running and walking the first day that they're born.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Listen, kids when they start running and walking become a handful, right? Can you imagine being a a mom horse that's just delivered a baby that's running circles around you. Like, that can't be fun. Right? That can't be fun.
It's like, I need some downtime.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Can I get a nap?
Yeah.
Can I get a nap? But the point is like every animal, every species is created differently. That's not by accident.
No.
It is not
No.
by accident.
Nope.
If it's anything other than divine, I would be wildly surprised.
Yep.
I do believe that you can believe in adaptation in species. Like,
Yes.
even color patterns and things like that for helping them camouflage or whatever.
Yeah.
Stay cool, things like that. Explain to me how a polar bear ends up with black skin.
It's like an albino polar bear.
So polar bears have
Opposite.
black skin. They're
Underneath,
underneath
yeah.
their
Yeah.
white fur.
Yeah.
Their skin is black,
Huh.
and it's to help them absorb the sun,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yeah.
So
You took
But then the rest of them is like,
the fur keeps them warm.
but it's white.
Well, I don't know. But my point is that that's not by accident.
Right.
That is not by accident. There's no way that they evolved into that. Like,
Yeah.
that was...
They were created that way.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Any other good points? Dinosaur topics, aliens?
We've covered it all.
Covered it all tonight. We've solved all the world's problems. Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying we all run for president together, one ticket, and we say we will solve all the world's problems from a podcast studio. Could you imagine the Secret Service detail that would be at this place?
I'm surprised.
6 of us.
I'm surprised they aren't here now.
Yeah, right. But not for protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're probably about due for a phone call from somebody in the government.
Well, we never heard from, who was I calling out last week?
I don't know.
Was it No, not Germany. I don't know, but they didn't.
We got another country.
Yeah,
Saw that,
I
but
can't
I don't
think-
remember who it was.
Romania, maybe?
No,
I
maybe.
feel like we had them, but then I wasn't sure.
Yeah, we did
It
get
could
another
be
country,
them.
but
Well, the last one I remember was Texas and the African province or whatever it was, because I said, we were talking about Undertaker and Kamala.
Yeah.
And then it just so happens we got them
Yeah.
too. I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Romania.
Yeah, I'll
I
have to
wish
look.
there was a way we could tell like which ones were added
Which ones were new,
recent.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we get our map.
Yes, when we get our map, we can pin it. I'm working on that. Although that's going to turn into a whole process because I don't do anything halfway. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right.
We're going to need this whole
Go
table
all
just
out.
to get ready.
Yeah, because we're going to hang it. It's going to cover that wall over there. It's going to be full size world map,
You can put little
We get a
pins.
big-
and we're going to be able
Yeah.
to push pin it.
we get a big globe
Oh.
because we argued that the Earth is round. So
Oh yeah, that's
We
true.
could put it right here,
Yeah,
and
no,
it could
it's
just circle.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Right on the
I
table.
wonder if we can find one that we can put push pins in though.
Oh,
'Cause
sure.
A plastic one, if you put the
Like a
push pins
cork
in there,
one.
they'd fall over.
yeah.
I'll get on Etsy and look.
Okay, you find us one.
But do they make a globe now that has all the right countries on it?
So my challenge has been I wanted a map that had all of the European countries, but had all of the United States. So like
Yeah.
rather than just North America, that it would be broken down into states, because so we could map the states as well as all of the major countries. So
We might have to draw in the states.
yeah. Don't have me do that. I found out really quickly that I think I know what they look like, but I don't. I saw Idaho and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's a really
Dude,
oddly
it's on the
shaped.
mashed potato box.
Oh,
Seriously?
I've never seen a mashed potato box.
You've never seen
Yeah,
a
you're
mashed
mashing
potato
all your
box?
potatoes.
No, I don't
Yeah.
know. I eat mine at a Bob Evans. You put them in the microwave.
Yeah,
it's like a kid.
Yeah, get out of here. You put them in for 3 minutes, pull them out,
Yes.
stir them, put them back in for 2,
Yeah,
let them set
those
for
are
3.
my favorite.
You're good to go. A little bit of gravy over top of them. I just eat the container.
Those are good.
Yeah, right
those
like
are
that.
good.
But my goal was to be able to have so that we could mark the states and the countries. Roger saw the first one that I got. I bought it on Amazon. I was like, "Oh, this thing is amazing." And then it came,
about
and
as
it was
big
about
as
this big, and you couldn't even see the states. Like you were like, "Which state is that?" Like the little states over to the side where they always
They
have
just
to
look like dots.
you couldn't even see them. Like it was just one.
For Polly Pocket.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely not for our use. So, who hasn't prayed yet? Have we made it around the table yet?
I
No.
did it last week. So
You did it last
yeah, it
week.
was me.
Yeah, you did it last
Okay, Roger, it's your turn then, because I think I
Roger
just started.
felt passionate about it.
I
last
started
week.
around the table. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, Roger, it'll be your turn.
All right, let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we do thank you, Lord, for this day, Lord. We just ask you to take and be with us in this podcast, Lord. Where we get off subject, Lord, but our hearts are right, Lord, and we just thank you for that, Lord. We thank you for all that you've done for us, Lord. We thank you for this earth that you've made for us, Lord. Some place to hang our hat, Lord, and we just thank you, Lord. We just ask you to take and be with those that are here tonight for service, Lord, and when they go home, Lord, because it looks like it's going to be foggy, Lord. So just let their lights be shining where they need to be, so they can get home, and let the light in their heart, Lord, be shining towards you. And we just thank you and praise you, Lord, for all that you've done for us, Lord. We just ask us all in Jesus' most precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.